Set. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Marisa Hambleton. I am one of the leaders of the Phoenix Developer Group here in Arizona, and my co-leader, John. Introduce yourself. He's here.
Everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm John. I'm one of the co-leaders for the Phoenix Developer Group. We're happy to have you guys join us for the Lunch and Learn today. Hopefully we'll be able to do some more in the future and then have you guys join us again.
Let me share my screen just for the quick news. All right. Oh. Okay. I'm going to keep this really quick just for intros. Again, Marisa Hambleton and on you. We are the leaders of the Phoenix Developer Group. We're all part of the Cactus Crew. And we're really happy that you all took time out of your lunch. You're going to join us. And thank you for coming and again spending some time with us. So we're again mentioned before we start the call that we had a few members of our community here that had wanted to learn about DevOps Center specifically, and they for who can you bring in to present. So here's us again, and after the presentation, we'll go ahead and open it up to a Q&A. But just during the presentation, let's talk about what DevOps challenges you're having, and this is one of the things that prompted a specific topic for this meeting, is that we had a few members here that were having challenges. There's a lot of tools out there. There's a lot of products. There's different sizes of teams, not only of developers, but you have like developer admin teams, different sizes of teams. Some, have like, again, maybe a small, medium-sized team, or let's say if you have like consultant or contractors that are working in your organization, you have, again, a lot of distributed teams. So there's a lot of challenges outside of just the tools that people can have and which tools they're using. So we wanted to have that, kind of bring that up to this group and have that conversation here. So, and other announcements are just kind of general, is that if this is something that you all would enjoy and find valuable, again, just around developer topics, have a noon meeting that's around lunchtime, Arizona, Pacific Mountain Time. Let us know, because we can do this more often. I think that's one of the, a positive thing that came out of COVID is that it's really easy for us to, set up a virtual meeting and here in Bevy, and, everybody jumps on and takes an hour or so for over lunchtime to have some learning and have some interaction, and access to product managers such as Wilson. So with that, I will shift over and introduce or let our esteemed guest introduce himself. We're all friends here. We're all having a good time, so no pressure. We're just here to learn and learn from each other. Learn about the product, and take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Marisa, and thank you, John, for the invite. So yes, I am Gilson Canario. I am the product manager for the DevOps Center team. So I've been a little bit about me. I've been in Salesforce for a little bit over 2 years, and since I joined, I have been working as a product manager on the DevOps. We belong to an umbrella called the Developer Experience Product, which provides tools to help developers and admin to develop in the platform. So I'm gonna start by sharing my screen. Let me see if I can get this right. And I can see from here that I'm sharing. Can you confirm if you can see the screen?
Yes,
Yep.
yes, we can see.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So this presentation, and thank you Marisa for contacting us and invite us to do the presentation. It was a session that was done on TDX by Karen and two developers from our team. So I'm gonna do a similar presentation here, which is basically sharing a little bit of a few tips and tricks on how to work with DevOps Center. Like always, our forward-looking statement is that please make any purchase decision based on products that are currently available. And switching up to the agenda, or basically what I'm going to be speaking about here, is that I'm going to start by providing an intro of what is DevOps Center, or what are the main benefits that we're striving for. Then I'm gonna jump in to talk a little bit about fundamentals, so like key things that you need to know, or the key components of DevOps Center, and what are some of the best practices that we recommend based off what we think is the best, and also what we have learned from our users. And from there, I'm gonna jump in a little bit on a demo. In the demo, I'm planning to give an overview of DevOps Center and how I'm gonna show an example of when you get dependencies, how you can manage them, and then I'll talk a little bit on how you can extend DevOps Center functionality to make it work or to adjust it to your own workflow. And lastly, I'm going to share a little bit about the roadmap, share some other content out there that you can use to learn more. And then, of course, I'm going to open a little bit of time to answer some Q&A. So with that, let's start. Here, I would like to know, I don't know what is the best way, maybe by raising hands or in the comments, if you have used DevOps Center before, if you continue using it in your team, or if you start using it and then stop using it because of any reason. If you can share that in the chat, that would be good. So that way I can learn about the audience, about you, and I can tailor the presentation as I go. But basically, what is DevOps Center? And DevOps Center is basically a product that we have that provides a declarative and an improved experience around change and release management. And the idea of what we're trying to bring with DevOps Center is basically bring teams to take better, bring teams to adopt better DevOps practices, so that if you have a team, let's say from a declarative, if you have a team with declarative developer and programmatic developer working together, they can collaborate together using the tools that they're more comfortable with. Uh, and the good thing about this is that most of these tools can continue. If you continue using these tools, you will see that all your environments will stay in sync. And I'll dive in more in each one of these as I go through the presentation. The first main benefit that we have, or that we share with DevOps Center, is that besides bringing a declarative experience around all of this, is that as you make changes in your org, DevOps Center keeps track of those changes in your development environment, and that it does that automatically for you. And once it tracks the changes in your sandbox, it is associated into a work item. So that way you can use that work item to actually keep track of those specific changes as it moves through your development lifecycle. We have a seamlessly integration with version control. And the idea is that whether if you are very knowledgeable of using source control, or if you're just starting, it's okay. Because not only we will help you adopt version control system, but also we will do most of the complex operation behind the scenes for you. Uh, our specialty, which is moving changes from one organ to the next. With that, we do that with a few clicks instead of code. And the good thing about migration from one organ to the next is that now that we are using source control as the underlying technology, we also, as part of that operation, do the branches migration. And that coordination between branch migration and deployment is done with clicks instead of code. And lastly, we have the concept of what we call the hybrid teams. And hybrid team is, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, is that if you are the collaborative developer, if you have a team of programmatic developer or a mix of both, the good thing is that both of them can work together from this single tool. They can collaborate together, and at the same time, they can continue using the tools of their own choices. So now that I have explained a little bit about DevOps Center, let's jump in a little bit on what are the key fundamental sections of DevOps Center. And the first one is a work item. And work item, basically what it does is that it manages the requirements, or it manages your requirement. You can think of it as a ticket, as an issue, as a user story, which is basically you get the requirement and then you associate your changes to that specific work item. And as I mentioned with the work item, is that you can keep track of the work item, keep track of your changes as you're doing it in your sandbox, but at the same time, you can use that work item to keep track as it moves through your development lifecycle stages. And the good thing also is that each work item have its own feature branch in the source control repository. And that's something that it would help you to not only manage your changes in isolation from other developers, is that also it will help you manage in source control as your source of truth. That is basically will be outside of any org from Salesforce. Now the next one, the next main section is the pipeline. In the pipeline is basically how we move changes from one org into the next. While the work item manage the requirements, the pipeline manage how we move changes from one org into the next. The pipeline also, in the first screen, as you can see here, is that it defines what are the stages of your workflow, or how you make changes from development until you get into production. This is fully configurable when you are setting up your pipeline, and you can set up how many stages you want to have and what type of org do you want to use. And all of this is according to your company's workflow. And the other page, or the other section of the pipeline, is basically what we use to migrate the changes, or promote the changes, or promote the work item through your application lifecycle management. This one here, we like to show this screen because it shows a little bit of a visual representation on what is the pipeline, or what is your, or how does your application lifecycle management looks like. Over the top, you can see a couple of stages. Each one of these represents a stage, and each stage represents an org in Salesforce, but at the same time, it represents a branch in the source control repository. Ideally, what we're striving for is for you to have a process from making changes, starting from dev, going to test, and then moving into production, instead of making changes directly into production. And ideally, we want to strive to always move stuff from left to right. And what that will do is that it will make your stages in your pipeline in sync. That means moving changes in and out of an org into the source control repository. I forgot to mention something, but yes, one part of that we like to recommend is that on each stage, let's say for dev environment, as I mentioned earlier, that you have you set up your stages based on your workflow. Each developer, we like to recommend that when you're in the development stage, each developer have its own development environment, so that way you can avoid stepping on other developers' toes, and you can work in isolation. You can make your changes in isolation, and it will make it easier for you to keep track of your own changes. When you have stages, depending on the stages that you have, the more that you have, the better. But at least we always recommend to at least have one test stage, because you want to test how the changes from multiple developers get into a place, or how the behavior will look like before getting them into production. And also another good tip that we have is that each stage you can set up with any type of sandboxes available. As a good rule of thumb that we have is that the closer you are to production, it's better for you to have a sandbox that have the more data, so that when you're testing the behavior of your changes, you will test in an environment that is most likely close to production, so that you can somehow confidently say that my changes will behave this way when it gets into production. Now, let's look at a, let's take a deeper dive on how this process look like, and especially with DevOps Center. Um, as you can see in the orange arrows, uh, you retrieve those changes and put it and commit into the org. In DevOps Center, what would that look like is that in the work item area, you have the pull changes. That button, what it will do is that it will communicate with the with your development environment that you have previously authorized and assigned to this work item, and ask, hey, tell me what are the latest changes that you have in that sandbox. So once all the changes are retrieved and it displayed to you, and assuming all the changes are ready to be promoted or just a few of them, once you select them, you hit the commit button. And basically, this operation is the one that is going to retrieve the changes using the metadata API and commit to the feature branch that is associated to that specific work item. And once you do that, it goes through a process of approval, and it checks in source control to make sure that everything goes well. And you think, hey, my work item is ready to move into my pipeline. So let's see how does that look like in DevOps Center. And in that case, that happens in the pipeline section. The previous section on the dev happens in the work item. Once you mark it ready to approve, it goes into the pipeline stage as marking this what we call pseudo stage, which is basically detailing all these work items are ready to move on. And we do that. You promote or migrate to the next stage by clicking a button that is called promotion. And we get the question a lot from our users, like, how come if you're doing a deployment, why are you calling it promotion and not deployment? And for the same reason that I explained a little bit earlier, is that now that we have let's say we have this new underlying technology called source control in the mix, and each stage have its own branch in the source control repository. The promotion operation, what it would do is a combination of merging the branches in source control and also deploying into the org. So basically, that operation happens every time you're trying to promote through each stage of your application lifecycle management. I try to kind of have a visual representation here that every time you see a star, that's when the promotion operation happened, when it merged to the next stages branch and then promoting to the org every time you click on promotion. So having explained this, one of the common question or main question that we hear is about the bundling stage. And we hear about what is the best practices? What is the bundling stage? That's the first question. And the other one is, where should we have the bundling stage? So first, I'm going to define the bundling stage by saying that this is a feature that we have in DevOps Center, that what happens is that as you move changes or work item into your bundling stage, and yeah, you configure the bundling stage, however, when you're configuring your pipeline where you want it to be, once a work item, an individual work item gets into this stage, it will move forward as a cohesive unit. As a cohesive unit that will behave the same, and I'll dig in a little bit on that now. In DevOps Center, you will see in the pipeline that in the bundling stage, now you don't see like individual check mark. You don't see an individual feature branch, because as soon as it gets into the bundling stage, all the changes will be merged into the stages branch. And the idea of us introducing the bundling stage, it was because of initially, or like the most industry standard of doing deployment or developing, is that you use basically a bundling stage. You move changes from left to right into an environment. If you find something that, there is a bug or something, you create another bug, another work item, fix it in that stage in a way that you ensure that the stage and your code is in good state before you move it into the next. But we heard the feedback from our users that they're more, let's say, two things. One is, what about the use case that I have a couple of changes that are ready to move on, but the rest are still in testing? What do we do? Do we hold off the deployment? And the same in the main purpose of having an application lifecycle management and DevOps is to continue moving changes left to right, so that way you can deliver faster to your users. That was one use case, and the other use case that we hear the most, that we have heard, is that Salesforce developers, they were used to using chain set and metadata deployment that basically allow you to move individual changes rather than a whole different bundling stage. So that's why we came up with this compromise. Like, we'll give you this option for you to use a bundling stage if you feel more comfortable. Um, in this let's say visualization that I have here, I'm moving my bundling to the left. And as I'm having individual work items doing in the development environment, and I'm promoting this into my bundling stage. And in version control system, or how version control system works, is that as soon as you promote new stuff, it will create a newer version based upon the latest version, and it will continue updating the version. It will continue updating the version. So when you promote this whole version, this whole unit to the next stages, you will it is more likely and with much more confidence that your changes will behave the same way as you move through your development lifecycle or through your next stages. But if you move the bundling stage into a later stage, in this case, for the integration org, DevOps Center is still using the individual branches when it's trying to do the merge and the deployment. So in this scenario, if I'm merging work item 1 and then work item 2 after, the latest version in integration branch is work item 2. But if I promote the work item 2 into the bundling stage, you might say, hey, it's fine. The bundling stage is in the latest stage, in the latest version. But then when you promote work item 1 into the next stage or into the bundling version, you might bring a later version on top of the latest version. It may or it may not cause any issues in the source control repository, uh, but in the long run, you might get into situations that will block your promotion, which is basically conflict or dependencies when you're trying to promote. And as DevOps Center honors the mergeability from source control system, your promotion will be blocked. And this is actually like the first or the number one customer case that we receive from our users, is that, hey, my promotion is stuck because I get dependencies and conflicts. Later on, when I do the demo, I'll show how DevOps Center helps you a little bit on deflecting that. But as a recommendation, is basically it depends on your workflow. What you might gain into confidence by having the bundling earlier, you might lose in flexibility. So it depends on what works best for you, whether you want more flexibility or more confidence. That will help you make a better decision on if to use bundling and where in your pipeline. Another feature that I wanted to talk about here is the dev environment synchronization. And this particular feature on DevOps Center happens on the use case that, as I'm signaling here, you have multiple developers working in its own development environment. And this is how it looks in DevOps Center. I have two development environment that have been associated or authorized to use with DevOps Center. So if the developer one make a change, let's say create work item number 1, and then promotes to the first stage of integration. Now you have a developer 2 that doesn't have those changes and is working in making changes upon of a previous version of the source control. So basically what the dev environment synchronization does is deploying or promoting the changes back from integration into the development environment too. DevOps Center keeps track of all the work items that this environment is missing, and it will show, like, it will give you a status that the dev environment is out of sync, what's different, or what are the work items that you're missing, and then you can deploy those changes back from, like here, from integration back into the development environment. So I know I talk a lot on the fundamentals, but as a summary, a quick summary to back up, is that we like to recommend that each developer have its own development environment when they are building, to avoid stepping on another developer's toes. Have at least one test stage or stages in your pipeline, so that way you can test before moving into production your changes, instead of making changes directly in production with the, you're getting the risk of breaking something, disrupting something in production, and then you're gonna get a 2 a.m. call that something is broken. The further left to the right that you have your bundling stage will help you avoid this situation where you can get dependencies or conflict. And the next one, or the last key principle or of the best practices, is that try to synchronize your dev environment as often as possible, and especially before you start any new work. Okay, so now before I jump into managing dependencies, I'm gonna do a quick demo here on DevOps Center. And the use case that I'm gonna show is very basic, but or the story that I have is very basic, but it will help talking about what are the situation where you can get dependencies and conflict. So here, I'm gonna give a big overview of everything that I talked. This is my pipeline here. In the pipeline, I have work items, and each work item is a set of requirements that have its own changes or its own metadata. Here is the environment tab, and environments tab is basically how many stages I have configured for each stage of my pipeline. I have integration, UAT, staging, production, and a couple of development environment. So for this stage, or for the story that I want to tell, is that just to set the stage, let's say I'm working with a team that we're building an application for a restaurant. And one of the requirements that I had was that I needed to create a custom object called ingredients. So I went into my work item, I created my work item, I went into my development environment, I created a new custom object called ingredients, and then it got approved, and I promoted to my next stage, integration. So now let's say we're gonna test those changes. DevOps Center have a cool feature that is the sandbox. We call it sandbox authorization manager. That is basically, once you authorize to an environment, the DevOps Center will remember your login and credentials. So that way you don't have to remember your credentials all the time. And with one click, I open my development environment that is in UAT, and I'm gonna test the ingredient custom object. So I have it here. I did that yesterday, and good. I'm gonna open it. Good. I'm seeing that everything works well, but I'm seeing an issue that because my main language is Spanish, I have a typo that I call it ingredientes, and it will look bad when we are showing this in our app. So now, what am I gonna do? I can easily make the changes in my UAT here, but then if I do that, then I won't be following the development best practices, but at the same time, my environment and source control will start getting in sync. And as I mentioned it earlier, the best advice or the best guidance is to start from left and go into right. So let's do that. Let's fix this. I have a work item here. This is the work item view. I'm gonna create a new work item, and it's gonna be called fix ingredients plural name. I can have a description here, and I can assign it to someone. In this case, I'm not gonna do any of this, and here is my work item. I'm gonna open my work item here. And the first thing that happens when you open a work item is that it asks you how would you want to work. There are two ways of working, which is correlated to what we call about our hybrid teams. If you choose the first one, which is I want to commit my changes using a sandbox, I can use one of the development sandboxes that I already have authorized. If I choose the second one, which is more on the commit my changes outside of any org, it will be more on the programmatic side. And this example is that, well, whenever option you choose, DevOps Center will create a feature branch for you, specific for this work item. So if you are a programmatic developer and you're more used to working on an IDE, you can work on an IDE, commit directly to source control to your work item feature branch. DevOps Center will keep track of it, and then you can deploy those changes from your feature branch ahead. For this particular demo, I'm gonna go through the declarative route, which is associating this with the development environment. Good. A branch is created in my work item. So once it's open, I can see some changes already here. I can see the work item feature branch, but let's open the development environment. And I'm gonna do the fix right now once it loads. I apologize, sometimes my connection is not the best. Let's find the ingredient. Okay, this is the custom object that I created yesterday. Let's make a change in my development environment. And then let's fix this. Good. So I did that, it is saved. So as I mentioned earlier, DevOps Center keeps track of the changes that happen in your org by leveraging source tracking. So now by clicking on pull changes, DevOps Center will go into the org and it will show you what are the latest changes. And I can see here that I made a change on a custom object. I can select this one and then commit. Right now, in this commit, as I show in the previous diagram, is going to go into the org, retrieve or the changes, the specific metadata file, and then commit into the work item feature branch. And you can see a status here. Some other things that we like to show is that if you want to modify like the details, you can do it here. And also we have an activity history that basically displays everything that have happened into this work item so that you can keep track of it. You saw a pop-up that says that the commit is complete. So now I can see it here. That's good. Now let's create a review. In this particular moment, DevOps Center, with one click, you can create the change request from this specific work item to the first stage of your pipeline. And you can think of a change request basically like a contract or as a proposal to merge into the next stage. You can even open the pull request from here and see what's changed. If you want someone else to review the specific change, because it's a newer version, you can see that it deletes the old one and update this one. So this is good. If you are more in the programmatic interface, you can approve this pull request directly from source control, and DevOps Center will receive the event and will process that these have been merged, and then you can complete the promotion directly. But I'm going to continue the process in DevOps Center, and I can click on this button called Ready to Promote, which basically says that this work item has been approved, is ready to be promoted into the next stage. And as I mentioned, with one click, I can do the promotion. I will, once you can see the test option that you want to run and then promote. And with a few clicks, now I am promoting one change from my development environment to the first stage. And it's basically what it's gonna do is merge the branches and deploy the changes into the org. And you can continue seeing the status here. And and I think it's good to go now. Let's wait for the, yeah, I think it will be good. So what happens is that now everything is good. So let's go into our integration branch. Let's hit on refresh, and it should say that everything, okay, ingredients in good. So that means that everything is good. I was able to promote. I found the bug. Instead of fixing it into the integration org, I fix it in another work item and get it in here. But now we are into this situation that, hey, I have a work item here with a bug, and I have a work item here with the fix. I want to promote the fix. I don't want to promote the bug into the next stages. So what I do? So if I promote the fix, three things might happen. The number one is that my promotion will be stuck because there might be some dependencies or conflict that is going on into your org. The second one is that, hey, it might not happen. Like I might be able to deploy, but then I might not be testing the latest or the real version because of what I mentioned of the branches being migrated, like being merged the latest instead of the first one. Or I can promote successfully, but then I'll have a work item here that it will stay cluttering your pipeline. It will stay behind. So for this, we do have a feature that we call the combined work item. And the combined work item feature, what it basically does is that it'll find work items in the same stage that are sharing the metadata. And once it's sharing the metadata, it will give you the option to combine the work item. And the work item or the combined work item feature, what it does is that it basically append uh, the latest version at the end of the previous version. So that way, the latest version of the changes are the ones that are going to continue being the winner. It's going to be the latest changes that you can deploy. And when you do that, that's what basically it's going to do. It's going to append this and do that in the background for you. And the end result will be that you will have only one work item or one combined work item with the latest changes that will help you avoid these three scenarios that I have mentioned. And now you can use this work item to promote the changes further in your pipeline. So basically, let me go back to slideshow mode. So basically, as a summary on how to deal with manage dependencies and conflict is that always continue moving work left to right to avoid getting your branch and your stages out of sync. Another good tip that we usually tell is that try to keep your work item granularity small, so that way when they're more manageable, it's easy to move them around and not hold changes in a stage because others are not ready. Or if you find an issue, it will be easy to fix because the scope is very small. Use a combined work item feature, and also always, and I mentioned this earlier, is that always try to have testing stages in your pipeline. The more, the better. Now, switching a little bit about how you can extend DevOps Center, how you can customize the DevOps Center experience. This one here is basically is a data model of DevOps Center. And yes, it looks a little bit intimidating, but honestly, it is not. So as
Gilson,
DevOps, yes.
hi. Just before we go on, I wanted to pause a little bit, just in case anybody has questions. We do have one question in the chat before we go on and go into more details after your demo. Does DevOps Center have rollback support?
Okay, yes, that is a good question. And as of now, we don't have the support for rollback. It is in our roadmap for the for future consideration. But I'll talk to this a little bit in the later. But in the
Okay.
roadmap, if you would like, please give us a thumbs up on that feature so that it can help our prioritization team. Let me see if there's any other questions.
I think that was the main question that came up in the chat. I've got a few questions, but I can save mine to the end.
Well, we can use this as a break, and you can ask a couple of them.
Okay, yeah. Well, I don't know. I think mine might be a little more appropriate for the end, but you've gone over a lot of like your demo's really nice. So like talking like real talk in practice, um, the initial setup, and then also the pipeline setup. That's something that I think would be really useful. I don't
Mhm.
know if, we've got, I think we're doing really great on time. So hopefully there's a few others that have questions, but if you could go, we do have time. If you could go over like maybe just the basics of the very initial setup, and then also the pipeline setup.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want us to look at it now or at the end?
How about at the end?
Okay, for sure. Let me add a note, and I can go about.
Okay, and then I'll remind you. So don't worry.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. So let me continue with this with the how you can extend and customize DevOps Center here. I wanted to say that DevOps Center is a managed package, and like any managed package from the App Exchange, when you install it, it'll bring like custom logic like Apex and custom object, and you can also, because you guys are a lot more expert on this, like this is what you do, you can use those to build automation and extend it. We actually publish our data model out there. So if you want to take a screenshot of this and look it over, it's in the dev website that you can read it, provide feedback, and it can help you extend DevOps Center. And we have seen from some example from in our community from users that have built extensions for this. Like one example that I'm showing here is that in the Apps Exchange, someone built reports based on the work item just to show what is the health of their work item and their deployment. That's something that it exists. Today, someone got in and extended DevOps Center. You can do it too. We have heard from users that they have built a notification based on Slack when an object change. Like for example, if a work item is created and assigned to you, you will get a Slack notification. Or when a deployment is completed, we have heard from users that have built those Slack notification. And lastly, we heard from a user also that they build a Jira integration or import. That basically what they do is that they exported their Jira issues and then they imported it using the data loader, and that will create the work item for them. So that would help them a little bit on, let's say, automating the process. Another cool way to extend DevOps Center is by using GitHub and specifically GitHub Actions. And GitHub Actions is basically tasks that you can run when something happens. For example, you can run static code analysis when a commit is done on a feature branch, or when the pull request is created. You can run GitHub Action to run static code analysis. And in fact, Salesforce does have a static code analysis tool that is called Code Analyzer, and we recently also published a GitHub action in the GitHub Marketplace that you can go ahead and install it and use it and try it out and see how that can help uh, adhering to the code best practices. And another way also to extend GitHub Actions is basically using GitHub branch protection. That basically is just like a quality gate, a blocker that before if before this pass, the pull request is not mergeable. For example, if you require additional approval, that could happen. And the good thing about this is that DevOps Center honors the mergeability rules of the pull request. So until the pull request is not mergeable, the promotion is blocked. So that could be a way for you to build some automation, build some extensions by using the branch protection. Uh, we do have more extensibility planned as we go in our roadmap, and some of them are like you can use APIs to like initiate a promotion and even synchronize the version control system, and that will be done on demand through an API. We started working on what we call as SPI, or a service provider interface, that you can basically run a piece of code within DevOps Center code, that it can be used to block promotion, even post promotion processing, and even support other version control system. And the next one that I have here is that native Lightning experience evolution. And it's basically that today DevOps Center is a standard application, standalone application, and you cannot customize it, at least on the UI. So we're gonna be working on migrating DevOps Center into more standard Lightning experience, so that you can like add custom fields, modify the layout, add list view, or basically customize it further. And that's something that we're gonna slowly start migrating as we can in the next year to get there. And as a next step, we have a public roadmap out there that we have published, and we use this to, let's say, showcase what's coming, what are we working on, what's coming, what has been delivered. But the most important about this is that we use this as a mechanism to gather feedback from our users. So if you think there is a feature that you need and it's not there, please find it here, add your upvote, even write about your use case, so that it can help our team to prioritize on what to build next, because this product is for you, so we want to make you happy. And also, if there's a feature that you want and it's not there, you can also add the feature there, and then we will add it to the roadmap. So that's cool. And then a little bit more about DevOps Center is that you can get started today. You can. It is free at no cost, and it's included in some of these versions that I have here. And you can install it from setup. So if you haven't, you can try us out and see if it works for you, and even share your feedback. And here I have also, I'm sharing about our Trailblazer community, that we have a lot of members, more than 8,000, that are very open and eager to share their knowledge. And we also share a lot of documentation over there. So please take some time and, get on it. And with that, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for having me here, talking about DevOps Center. And if you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them.
All right. Thank you, Gilson. I'm quickly getting these links into the chat.
Thank you so much.
All right. So, okay. So let's get back to, so rollback support. So you said that it's, again, it's something that's in consideration on the roadmap. Now this is something, again, I don't know if anyone else has any other similar questions, but that rollback support it's a big deal, right? And I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's a feature that most we talked about gear. We're having a chat before the meeting started about GearSet and Capado, which are two really popular DevOps products, right? Again, Capado's like the big, like for big enterprise. So I don't know. I guess show of hands. This doesn't have that like kind of thumbs up reaction the way Zoom does. But maybe just in the chat, if you can kind of say what size of company or what size of tools does your company use? Because I think that if I remember correctly from our summer conversation with a few of our local members, is a lot of these the people in that conversation were with like small to medium sized teams, right? They might be with a larger company, but they just have a smaller developer team. And so they didn't need like Capado was like, too much tool for them. They needed something similar, which is why they were interested in DevOps Center. to begin with. But just show of hands in the chat, like what kind of tools does your company use, or is there a tool that your company is already using? And then like kind of to compare and contrast with everything that you've seen in Gilson's presentation and what he's talked about, which how many people are actually, other than the ones that mentioned earlier, that you're actually seriously thinking of using it and setting it up for your company and your team. Or if you want to come off mute, by the way, anybody, like, you don't have to do the chat if you want to. I think I set it up so anybody can take themselves off of mute.
Yeah, and I can say about rollback that yes, it is something that we are considering, and we know it's very popular. But as a workaround, what we tell our user is that if you promote something into one stage and you find the bug, is to create another bug and promote it into that stage. But we understand that sometimes you break something and you want to actually fix it right away. We understand, we got it, we understand the feature, and it's coming down the pipeline,
Okay,
down the roadmap.
that's fair. Of course, like I'm saying that's fair because if in a simple scenario, if you have, if it's a larger organization, if you have more developers, that could easily become a problem. But we have a question here as a new question is it best practice to have one or multiple projects running within the DevOps Center?
Yeah, that is actually a good question, and we get that question a lot. So to answer, we have designed DevOps Center to be one project and one pipeline, and everything, like one project and everything that happened in the realm of that project, it will keep happening in the realm of that project. There might be use cases that you will benefit of having multiple projects, uh, but and even if you have multiple projects, you can even use the same orgs. The thing is that we don't have a mechanism today to communicate between one project and the next. So if you want to have multiple projects, it's best to keep them separated. Now if you have a use case, like, I would like to have a specific project to have a hotfix pipeline, for example, a pipeline that will go from dev to test to production so that you can streamline those changes. You can do it, and it's a valid use case. Or maybe a use case that you have maybe another team working in separate orgs, and they don't need to communicate with team number two. That's another use case that you can have multiple projects in it. And if you want to use the same orgs in both projects, you can use it. What we like to recommend is that you have separate branches in between, or it can be under the same repository but different branches, because the DevOps Center is not designed as of now, because we will in the future, to work with multiple projects. You can easily get out of sync when you are using multiple projects with the same branches. Does it make sense what I explained?
Uh,
Did I answer your question?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, it does. Okay, yes. Again, what I'm hearing is that it's if you really are like, again, it sounds like it's meant for like smaller teams that have, right, because if you're working on with a larger team, that you have one team working on one project, another team working on another project, they're all going into the same production org, like that can sounds like it can create a problem. So is that something that's on the roadmap? Is that something you can talk about as far as like the
Yeah.
future of the product?
Yes, for sure. So yes, DevOps Center, um, it is more designed like small, medium team, because the use case that we are trying to solve is, let's say, replace chainset, but at the same time collaborate
Hmm.
with the programmatic developer. We do have in our
Okay.
pipeline to, in the future, on our roadmap, I keep saying pipeline, in our roadmap, to go more into the enterprise side, where you have complex projects, and even one project
Mhm.
with multiple pipeline or multiple project with multiple pipeline, that's something that definitely is on the roadmap. But for our
Okay.
immediate problem that we are trying to solve is what we call the adoption blockers. And the adoption
Mhm.
blockers is basically what is stopping our users from using the application. In our case, is version control system. So today we
Mhm.
only support the GitHub Cloud, but there's a bunch of other teams that are using other version control systems, such as Bitbucket, and that's something that
Yes.
that's like our number one priority right now. Well, actually, our number one priority is to make the application more, like reliable and actually like promote without problems. And when we're gonna always continue doing that. But our next priority in regards to features is version control system. As you can see here, like most
Mhm.
of the other version control system are the next big step for us. And then we're gonna move on
Okay.
to more complex pipelines.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's great. That's great. So talking about the immediate problem that you're trying to solve, which is the small and medium-sized teams that would be working in a single project pipeline. Can you talk about the setup? So like, I'm a new customer. I just got right. I have my new or production org. It's just been implemented, and now I don't know, a year later, and I have this new project, a new initiative that I have developers and admins that are working, and so I want to get DevOps Center up and running for the first time. Can you go over that, or just like, I see that you're in the help and training. I don't know if there's some part of the setup and configuration that you can show us.
Well, the I don't know if I can show this because the org that I have is already installed, and I have shared the documentation. But basically,
Okay.
what you do is to install and enable DevOps Center is by going in setup and enabling the Dev Hub, and then you can enable DevOps Center, and automatically it will install the managed package. But besides that, I think it is showing here a little bit. Yes, once it's done, you'll see the managed package install, and there are some let's say tasks that you have to do, like create the connected app that is showing here, and then assign the permission sets that to the specific users. Let me see what are the permission sets are showing here. There are a couple of them, depending on what team members you have. So by default, you should have DevOps Center and DevOps Center Manager. But the release manager, no wait, the release manager, it gives you the permission set to be able to deploy. So if you don't have this one, you can create work items, but you cannot deploy. You will get an error. And I believe this one will help you create project and add environment and user. And this one is the one that will help you to create work items and commit. But based on your requirements, and once you assign the permission set, that's when you get into some other configuration settings about locking the session if you needed to. So I added here the link on how to follow the process on setup, which is installing the app and do some post install configuration, and that should get us started. Uh, the challenge that we hear sometimes is that it doesn't work for sandboxes. And what happened is that DevOps Center does not support to be installed in a sandbox, because sandboxes get refreshed, and if you refresh your sandbox, then you're gonna lose everything. So what we have a link here on how you can evaluate the DevOps Center, and basically will be how you can install in an own production org, in a developer VE org,
Jadi
and
control
also
center output.
I think okay, yeah, thank you. And then the next one is that if you want to try also on a playground org, you can do that, and you can install it in there. So as a summary, is I linked here the installation steps on what you can follow. If you have any questions, any problem, like either reach out to me or in the community, and we can help you.
Okay. And then there is a community um, success community group, correct?
Yeah, we have a
For DevOps Center.
Trailblazer. Yes, let me show it in here. We do
Yeah.
have a Trailblazer community that we have a bunch of members there that ask questions and post comments. So
Okay.
that's something that you can go there and ask the questions. And we have a bunch of links on the right that have the installation guide, the roadmap, and some other cool information.
Okay. Right. So if you are not already a member of this Trailblazer community group, please, if you're interested in learning more about DevOps Center, go ahead and join that one. So that's
Yes, please.
now as far as the pipeline setup, right? So again, scenario, I'm a customer, I have DevOps Center, still new. I'm on to the next phase of, okay, my developers, my admins are ready to start using DevOps Center and they're ready for their first project. Can you walk through that pipeline setup?
Yes, yes, for sure. I can try my best because I might need to find the credentials of my org. But basically, the way that you set up and is that I have a bunch of projects, but basically you go into a new project. I'm gonna call this project test 2. So for me to be able to do it, uh, before I do this, I have to have an account in GitHub. And if you're not authorized yet, the first section, because I'm authorized, it doesn't show anymore, but it would ask for connection and like authentication between DevOps Center and GitHub. But in this case, I already have it. Uh, I create a new project. I have a project name and save. Basically, right now, when the project is being created, DevOps Center creates a repository in the source control with the name of the project for you, where all the different branches will be created for you as you set up the pipeline. And the first stage is that you need to add what is your release environment. In this case, if you want to have a production org or a sandbox, you can select which one of those. I'm going to add a production org here, which is the same as this demo. Let me see if I can find if I remember my credential. Did I get it? Yes, I get it right. So once I log in into the org from DevOps Center, that's when you give the authorization on DevOps Center to use this org. And once that's done and you authorize, you'll see that you can have the doc here. I have a bunch of projects here with the same org that I use for my demos. I'm going to open this. So yes, this is the pipeline setup in here. And basically, as I mentioned before, you can set up as many stages as you want, and you can set up where you want to have the bundling stage, which is in here. I can set up having non-bundling stage or having my UAT as a bundling stage and whatever. And then I don't have all my orgs here, but if you want, let's say you have you want to have staging, UAT, and integration, you connect your environment by clicking in here. It will come up with an authorization, like authorize or log in into the org, and then you can have you can specify the name of the branch. If you and your team already have branches created, you can put the branches here when you're setting up, and then DevOps Center will use those branches. But if you want to create, if you want DevOps Center to create new branches, you can add the name, and it will do that. You can even add, remove, or move stages, however your workflow allows. Like for example, you may not have a staging, but you have a UAT and a QA or integration or what or any other name. That's something that you can do. And once you fill out like how many stages you want to have, the name, you connected a couple of environments, you added the branch, whether you use an existing branch or created or wants DevOps Center to add new branches, and even added your development environment, you will see a new, let me take this out of here. You will see a new button here that says ready to activate, and then you can activate the project, and basically that's it, when it's going to do all the processing of creating the branches, and your project will be ready to go. So basically that is it, how you create your project, your pipeline.
All right. Thanks so much,
You're welcome.
Gilson. Yeah, that's awesome. So we're running really well. I wanted to make sure that we get had enough time to go over like your whole presentation and leave plenty of time for Q&A. So if anybody has any other questions or comments, I had planned for a good half hour for questions. We can close early if not, if nobody has any other questions. But let's see, I know what we can do. Well, let's wait. I'll give everybody a couple of seconds, if you want to come off mute and ask the question, or if you want to put it in the chat. Again, here's there's the QR code. I also put those in the chat, so you can go ahead and see those there. And then, oh, one more thing, is this, so we're recording this session, so I'll post this as soon as it's done processing, and then you'll, just the same place where you came to attend this meeting, we'll have the recording posted so everybody can access it later. Is the slides, is that something that you can share with us also, Gilson? Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
So yeah,
for sure.
anybody have questions? Okay, awesome, great. Yeah, and I think, is there anything else? I know that, again, right before the meeting started, we, this was the presentation that we, here, I'll come off camera here. Okay. Yeah, so we talked about the tips and tricks, and then you have another presentation that you also, Gilson. So if this is a topic that people are truly interested in, like, let us know. We would, we can always ask Gilson or any of his teammates to come back and talk to us more, maybe get a little more in depth. I think for those of you who are like seriously considering using DevOps Center, if you've wanted to use it and maybe haven't had success, we have, we have a product manager here himself. He's here to answer your questions and help unblock any of those challenges. I know I asked right before we got started during the intros, is what DevOps challenges are you having? So again, Dielson mentioned that DevOps Center is meant for smaller to medium-sized teams, but I think, this is also a great time to talk about other, if you're with a larger organization and you're using, another tool, we have, there's lots of really popular ones, mentioned Capado, GearSet, AutoRabbit, Flowsum, Prodly, Blue Canvas. All, by the way, I say, except for Flowsum, they've all been Cactus Force sponsors in the past. So, we do have access to those teams as well. But if you're if you're with a larger organization, if that's something that would be valuable to you, we're happy to bring in those speakers in the conversation. Okay, crickets. Alrighty. So, we do have some giveaways. For those of you, okay, so show of hands again, who did not attend Cactus Force this year? Okay. Two. Okay, so we have a few of you. Okay, so today's your lucky. So as you know, we do record all of our content, so that's available on our site, cactusfirst.com. We also have shirts for you. So I just put in the chat a URL. It's a form. So go ahead and fill that out and claim your free shirt. I think we have all the sizes right now. Large, they're all unisex shirts. So again, we like to kind of spread the love on Cactus Force, and they're really popular shirts. We work really hard to have a nice shirt and have kind of support our attendees, our community, with giving them a really nice, comfortable shirt to wear. And so go ahead and you can request yours. Again, we have most size. The larges are running a little low on inventory, so we'll do the best we can to get you your size. But go ahead and you can enter that, and then yeah. So I think that's all we had. You'll get a form at the post meeting. I'm sure most of you have attended other virtual community group meetings and events. So you get a form survey after the meeting that asks you what you thought. Please be honest. If whatever, if this is something that you enjoyed, that you found valuable, take your lunch hour, take your lunch hour during your workday to spend with us. And if it's something that's useful, let us know. If you like topics like this, or if you have a specific topic or specific products that you want to learn more about, please let us know. The other thing that we're doing for those of you who are here in Phoenix, please come out and join us for and let me get the URL for you all, in case you haven't. We have a very active community here in Arizona, and so we have a bunch of community groups. So this is the developer group. We have an architect group. We have a women in tech group. We have a admin group. If you're in Northern Arizona, there is a group in Flagstaff. Tucson, I think they're in transition, but there is a group of people that do meet there. It's a smaller group, but yeah, we've got a lot of groups here. They're pretty active, so there's always something going on. But I just put in the chat. This is happening next week. We have the architect group. We're going to do a recap of PDX, and this is again in person. And then Steve, the leader for the architect group, is going to be running a well-architected workshop. So those are things that, again, we have, again, just if you have been to Cactus Forest or you've been to any other community groups around the Trailblazer community, we also collaborate with other, and a marketing group. Yeah. So our marketing group, it's Phoenix, but the leader, she actually runs virtually because she spends a lot of time in India. So she does a lot of really great content around Marketing Cloud and Pardot. She's been running a really great series on Data Cloud. So again, I encourage all of you to look that up. It's the Phoenix Marketing MC group or marketers group. So she's run some really good series. She's got all of her sessions on YouTube. So again, those are all that out of Arizona. So again, we're, whatever kind of content you all, if there's anything specific, please ask. It's, again, it's not asking. John and I and Steve, who we all work collaboratively along with our other fellow community groupers, and we'll just, between us, somebody doesn't make a suggestion, we'll just come up with something that we'll put on. But again, these virtual lunch and learn sessions, if this is something that you like, we're happy to do more of this. So that's all I have. John, do you have anything you need to close up with?
No, it was a very informative session, Gills, and I've learned so much. And hopefully I'll be able to dabble into DevOps Center sometime this year. But yeah, thank you all for joining us today. Hopefully it was informative to you all as well. And like Marissa said, please provide feedback. And then if you have ideas of future sessions, please let us know so then it can help us plan out our future meetings for the rest of the year as well.
Okay. I'll put, oh, there. We have our closing thank you. Thank you, thank you. Okay, there, it's loaded. Yay. Okay, so yeah, thanks everybody. We'll close up a little bit early. I appreciate everybody again taking time out of your lunch hour. You've got that URL there, shirts. Anyone else, right? We do have let's see, there's 13 people on right now. So yeah, we've got some shirts. So yeah, if you want a shirt, or even if you attended and you have a spouse or child or neighbor or friend that says, "Oh, I love your shirt," go ahead and request one. It helps us get the word out about Campus Force. We're already set for 2025. So this year we moved to a different location, Arizona. I think we found our new home. They're really great. It's part of the Arizona University properties. It's the SkySong Mission Center. It's a really, really great space. It's a classroom space. They're set up for conferences like this. Again, they've got classrooms. It's right in Scottsdale, just a couple of short miles from Old Town and a couple of short miles from downtown Tempe Airport. It's walkable for just small areas, but popular this year. So we hope you can join us in person in 2025, January 23rd and 24th. So you can save that date. It's up on our site. You can view all the sessions that we did. We hope you'll join us again in the future. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Gilson.
Thank you so
joining
much.
us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the invite, and have a great rest of the day.
Okay, awesome. Thanks again. You were fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.